And now let's talk about what to do with astrology. So let's talk about what to do with astrology and what to do with the information that is out there about the daily influences and your charts or your chart. So, what to do with astrology? First off, get your natal chart done, and there's plenty of free websites that you can actually do this from. And I'm actually going to put my chart on the screen temporarily so I can kind of talk about a couple of things because it's rather interesting. So when I look at my chart, right, I I notice several things about it. So, I see that I have a lot of planets in my 12th house, and then, I can see where my moon is and where all of my other planets are. So then I can, depending on my knowledge, this is for anybody else, depending on your knowledge or how much you really want to dive in and or research it, you know, take a look at this stuff to see the influences that it has on you. So me, for example, my rising sign is in Taurus, although I'm kind of an Aries Taurus cusp. So, I'm slow and deliberate. I like to kind of have things in order a bit. My sun is in Aries, so, I'm very independent. I can kind of jump quickly with my emotions. Okay, so I learned that about myself. Um, you know, my moon is in Capricorn, so I can be, kind of shy. I can be really hard on myself. Um, my Mercury is also in Aries, so I like to think independently. My Mars is in Gemini, so I can jump at things when I get excited. My Venus is in Pisces, so I'm very imaginative and I kind of got a romantic side to me. My Jupiter is also in Aries, which is really cool because that's very expansive in terms of really wanting to better and push myself. So I didn't really want to go through all of these things here, but any of these influences that you can look up by like free astrology charts and stuff, they can be really interesting in helping you to learn. So after looking at your chart and seeing the influences of where things are at your birth snapshot to kind of get an idea of the influences of your personality, it's like taking a psychological look at your home life and your upbringing to understand different ways that your home life and the way that you grew up, regardless of how old you are now, can have an effect on you and can kind of give you a disposition towards life in terms of how you act, how you interact, and how you think. And it can be really interesting to kind of take a look at this. But just like any other aspect of life with psychology and influences and upbringing and things like that, these things are not 100% of who you are. There's we all grow, adapt, and change over time, and there's nothing wrong with like one of my planets, for example, is influences me. I can't remember which one. That I like travel. You know, I like to go places and do things. Well, newsflash, I don't, and that's partially because of my upbringing. So you want to look at these influences of your astrology chart and your own personal life, and it's okay to disagree with it. Um, one of the main things and the best thing to do with your astrology chart is to look at a transit report. I think it's called, where you can look at the current position of the planets in relation to your chart to see what your life is, what the influences of the planets nowadays is like on your personality to kind of get an idea of, oh, this might be difficult for me until this planet moves out of whatever the heck it's sign it's in or whatever it's doing, or if it when it stops retrograding, this won't be so hard. The planets and things, the planets and the signs can really give you an idea of what it's going to be like out there, and it can really explain a lot about the different happenings in your life. Like when I was that chart that I put up, that was done by an astrologer from Nightlight Astrology when we were taking a class, and it was really interesting for him to read the chart, right? Because he asked me, he was like, at the time, so I'm just gonna go with the timing and stuff. He's like, hey, about like 2 years ago, did you get a lot of financial help? And I was like, yeah. He's like, what kind? And in our discussion, the way that planet was positioned in the chart, it indicated um, financial help at a certain time, and that happened to be when my car died on a Friday morning, right after I filled it up with gas, pulling it out of the gas station, and I actually got help with with replacing my car. Um, One of the other things which was really cool is where a Chiron is in my chart. Um, Chiron's the wounded warrior, so it's kind of like where you got a chip on your shoulder, a little bit, and the influence of that one had difficulties with the person's head when in early stages of life, and I was like, that's really coincidental, and that's really cool because I had my mom lost count at 15 surgeries on my head due to hydrocephalus and stuff. So yeah, I had that whole spiel up here. So looking at the chart can really help explain a lot of things in life. It can explain your like the influences of your home life. It can kind of predict what things you're going to be interested in. It can predict what things may happen to you around a certain age, or even what kind of person you are in certain situations. Is this 100% true due to personality changes and things that you've gone through? No. Like my example of my chart telling me that I really like to travel. Because I don't, but that's because I traveled a lot as a kid and it kind of sucked. So, kind of ruined it for me. But what else can we do with astrology? Okay, you can also look at what's called synastry reports, where you can actually compare your chart with someone else's chart to kind of see where positivity is and where negativity is. Like when you're when you have a partner, like if you're doing like business, like working with somebody in terms of business, or like you're becoming romantically involved, you can do a synastry report with your chart and theirs, if you know their like date, location, and birth time, to get an idea of what kind of difficulties or positivity is a word, put it down there, may come up. Now, is this a 100% way of saying, yeah, this is totally going to make stuff suck for you? No. Is it a way of warning you to, hey, this might happen? Yeah. Um, so astrology can show you the influences of things, just like the weather has an influence on how you act day to day. Um, Astrology is fascinating in terms of the just to me, it's the coincidences or synchronicities, as you would call it. I'm gonna make a video on that kind of thing probably, maybe sometime today, but it's not gonna come up at the same time. It's not gonna be posted at the same time anyway. Um, it's just fascinating to see these coincidences because there's this one phrase that I use like I've heard of coincidences. I've just never seen one where if it walks like a duck and quacks like a duck, it's a duck, and it's really interesting to see how this ancient science can really be applicable to people's everyday life. Is it 100% foolproof? Hell no. No. But is it? Can it help to kind of get you an idea? Yeah. I mean, coffee's great, especially when you have the day off. Why is my alarm going off right now? Yeah, we're gonna cancel that. Um, Astrology, for another thing, is just really a really fascinating subject to learn about because it's been around for so long. I mean, researching it kind of really helped me to understand the workings with the Simon Necronomicon as well, because you do end up, if you follow the initiatory process, after the gate walking, you actually work with the zodiac signs. So even under the influence of each zodiac sign, each individual one, don't just learn about the specific ones in your chart and such, but even from month to month when the signs change, it can help you to understand, hey, this month might be a little this way. This month might be a little that way in terms of my chart. And due to this planet being this way or that way, it might bring up these things, or these things might become difficult. The big moral of the story is use it as a forecast. That's why a lot of them call it a forecast. Just like you would when you're gonna plan a trip or go outside for the day, or even getting ready to work, getting ready to go to work, or even planning what time to wake up because you gotta like chisel the ice off your car and such. It's a way of planning things or being aware of things. Just like how you kind of have to be aware of how hungry you are or how you're feeling, taking a step back for a second and being aware of how you're feeling, so when you interact with people, or you're in some kind of activity, that you know how you're going to act. There's metacognition, which is thinking about your thinking. This could be seen as a way of metacognition in terms of being aware of the influences around you. Is there a word for that? I think metacognition would fit it, but I'm talking about astrological metacognition in terms of being aware of the influences around you so you can do better than just what the influences are. These things would help you to avoid pitfalls in terms of different conjunctions, different aspects between the planets, what signs they're in, or even different retrogrades. What you want to do with astrology is understand what's going on, but also think critically about how to problem solve. The same thing with everyday life. Like if you own a house, there's going to be stuff that goes haywire. A light bulb goes out, a light switch stops working, whatever. Don't just be like, oh, well, I guess that sucks. That's really kind of lame. Fix it. Learn how to work around it. Astrology is a great predictor for different things too. Oh, next month, these kinds of things might happen. So it's a bad time to plan a trip. Mercury is in retrograde, so it's bad to make plans. It's okay to finalize things, but it's bad to start things when Mercury is in retrograde, for example. Or, I have this meeting with somebody when Mars is in retrograde, and I might want to be really prepared because it could get a little intense. I guess the big wraparound moral of the story is be aware of what's going on so you can rise above it, and don't let it dictate how your day goes. Because, like I said in the other video, and I know I'm kind of blending the two, just trying to have more of a positive focus on this one, but don't let your planets rule you. Don't let your planets define what's going on, and use them as a way of conquering and being your best at everyday life. If like as a magician, for example, you are the master of your reality. You create and take responsibility for everything that's going on around you. So I can't blame planets for different stuff that goes on with me, because I am ultimately responsible for how I act and what happens. And so are you. So if you want kind of a leg up on the world in terms of being able to understand and predict things that are going on and how to get around them, like an effective detour, then get your chart done, look at synastry reports of how you interact with other people, and look at the forecasts and influences of the different planetary aspects as they change from day to day, week to week, month to month. Tons of YouTubers do astrology forecasts, like the ones that I got my lady doing on this channel whenever she gets around to them, as well as the other ones on each particular sign. So it's the same as anything else. Do your research. Really dive into it if you have the time. But understand that you can rise above these things, and it's not just a prescription for how much your day is going to suck. Hopefully that made sense. Let me know in the comments. And, you can connect with me on all of my other social media links and through my email, which you can find at the end of this video. Good hunt.
Thanks for watching my video. So if you want to check out my playlists, I have, among others, the Simon Necronomicon, the Tree of Life, General Magic, Tulpamancy, a playlist on my books, the elements, stones, the theories that govern magic, and the gods and goddesses of Mesopotamia. If you want to check out my books on Amazon, I have Creating Consciousness, Magical Mechanics, Magical Theater, Handy Sigil Magic, and The Guide to the Spheres and Beyond. You can also find me on Facebook at Magickology YT. You can email me at priestofthenecro@gmail.com, and you can even check out my Instagram, which is Magickology. And good hunting.